Hello and welcome to Game Soup with Chloe and Kayla. It's a game design podcast where we throw ideas in a pot and see what's cooking. I'm Kayla. How's it going, Chloe?
It's going really well. I survived Mission Stitch Possible at the cinema.
What did I see at the cinema? I saw the Phoenician Scheme at the cinema the other weekend.
I thought that came out next week.
No, it was on. I didn't see it the weekend. I saw it last Friday. We're recording this on like a Tuesday or whatever. Yeah, so it is out now. At least near me.
Not our cinema.
On Peckham Plex. But I guess not to the views yet.
Oh well.
Also, as this is a game podcast, I think we should have a second to talk about the beautiful game. I'm of course talking about football because on Saturday, Arsenal Women FC became the champions of Europe. They won the Champions League. Were the first English team to do it since 2007. Do you know the last English team to do it? Oh, that's right. It was Arsenal Women FC. They're the only English women's team to ever be the champions of Europe. This is so interesting to all of our listeners because it is the beautiful game.
I don't know anything about football. I went to Anfield as a kid, the Liverpool ground. Wow. I'm sorry, I'm more into roller derby.
Are you?
Yeah, I've been to a few roller derby games.
I was going to say, are you into any sports? And I was like, you did write Tournament Arc, though I also know that is more about sports anime.
That's more about Yu-Gi-Oh! Than it is sports.
I've been thinking, I've been doing some like little writing about what I consider like the sort of play loop or some mechanical stuff about the Afterlife soccer game I mentioned before.
Oh yeah.
I think I currently have a provisional title. I think I'm like narrowing down the premise and what I to some extent think the premise is about and what I'm trying to avoid it otherwise being more about and stuff. I think my current provisional title is I'm going to call it Asphodel FC.
That's pretty cool. I like you could do like lots of logo designs, get lots of stickers with that. That's cool. I can see that.
Yeah, so I still need to work out more exact things. I think genuinely, I might try and do some research about like the formation of professional football back in the end of the 19th, start of the 20th century. Because I think that could be a useful. I find that an interesting topic anyway, but also I think it could be informative.
You can make it a period fantasy piece.
No, but it's because it's so much about like it needs to be about scrappy underdogs, and also it needs to be to some extent about like the relationship to federated sports. So I think it's useful to have like I think it will inform my writing in a way that I find interesting if I clue myself up more on origins of like the FA and stuff. Not that it's going to be like a 1-for-1. Like I don't think this is an allegory game. I think it more has some like applicability to different things.
It just has 6 pages at the start explaining the history of the FA for no given reason.
I did consider at one point, like vague, like having just with no context at the one page that is just a list of all the times groups of people have been banned from sports.
Yeah, that could be a cool poster.
Just like, you know, FA women, I can't remember the year they banned women's football, FA trans women 2025. Like, obviously, I'd also have to look at stuff like segregation and other things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I do that. I would need to then write the game and decide whether I feel that's relevant. Though I do feel there would probably be some resonance with sporting bans because I do think this is a game with a bleak ending where you know
you lose. Yeah,
the sport industry won't love you back.
Yeah.
Anyway, you had an idea, and we talked about this a bit off pod to prep it, because we're going back to our Selection of jams. That's right. Hit the selection of jams jingle, Chloe.
There's strawberry and blackberry, but also a game jam.
Do you want to tell us about the game jam? You said we should.
Yes, I mean, I saw this on Blue Sky, and it is based on the idea that there's a lot of RPGs with the acronym WTF. I don't think there is any other than Werewolf, but Werewolf the something probably starts with F. But yes,
Yeah,
it's a
I'd have
jam
to assume.
by David J. Focopets, who's done a lot of stuff that looks cool. I don't know, I can't say I've heard of it, but I'll give it a look.
Big on Tumblr.
Oh, well, there you go.
Look at
Big on Tumblr. So yes,
I should say I'm quite fatigued today. I don't have more necessary energy to give more context there. But the jam is the WTF Jam 2025. There are only 2 rules. Your entry must be a TTRPG, and the title must be an acronym of W.
yeah.
So we, instead of... I did learn recently, and we could do this depending on how long we go with the ideas we already prepped, that we can set our random word generator to do certain letters. So we could do
that's
acronym
cool.
games, that style. But we prepped some things. So I prepped 3. How many did you come up with?
I managed 1. I didn't know we were doing multiple. Look, that one
I don't
took
know,
me
I thought
half
I'd
an
bounce
hour.
around. Well, I mean, I've got 3 options, and we can decide what interests us most out of these. Should
Yeah.
I go through my 3 first, or you want to share your 1 first?
I think give me your best. Give me your favourite.
Ooh, I feel they're all different vibes. So the 3 I have: Wasted Tooth Fairy,
Okay.
Wounded Time Freak,
Okay.
and We Tell Fibs.
Okay, so Wounded Time Freak is giving me some sort of the doctor is injured and he's doing some, weird perverted looking at Rose before he dies.
I see. I feel like my immediate mind there was like a time freak was more someone whose maybe relationship to time travel is not within their, like someone who's like just shifting through times out of control.
Yeah, the guy from The Time Traveler's Wife.
Yeah.
The Time Traveler's Wife's husband.
The Time Traveler's wife's husband. Like that kind of vibe with some kind of wound. Wasted Tooth Fairy feels like the vibe of a Grant Howard game.
Yeah, I could see that being a one-pager from Grant.
We Tell Fibs, I feel, has some kind of like... I did vaguely think about this. I usually try and avoid thinking about it until I think about it. But for We Tell Fibs, I was like, maybe it's some kind of game where like you will have the unique ability within a single session to tell like one perfect lie. And that's like your main ability and you're doing something else. But what's your one? And then we can think about that and decide which one we want to explore more in depth.
Mine was We 3 Fates, where each player plays as one of the 3 fates.
Ah.
And like you influence a character's life. I don't know if it's like a free GM game with 1 player, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that, or maybe it's not actually a collaborative game, and you are competitive fates rather than like you are no longer, you are the fates having a disagreement.
Yeah.
Maybe there it uses something like there's some sort of, I guess, almost like automated, like not like automated, but like procedurally, there's a procedure to follow. Of like a hero whose roles, it's like they will roll this many things at this point, but the fates also have abilities to influence that. Maybe it is like 3 GMs, 1 player, but specifically like 1 GM likes the player, 1 specifically is like playing the villain, and 1 is something else. I don't know, maybe like more an arbiter or something else. But like, yeah. Which, so, we both went with we for 1.
Yes.
Which one do you want to talk about more first?
Well, okay, so if we're in the we're talking about Wii Free Fates. Let's stick with the thing and then move back to one of yours. I like the idea that you have the one arbiter GM and then like the two opposing sides of it playing against like one hero character.
Mm.
So like say the arbiter is giving arbitrator, whatever, is
Arbiter.
the guy from Halo is giving
Yeah.
you like challenges in your mythic quest because it's Greek myth or whatever. And I want to say the two dueling fates have maybe a deck of cards each, and they put down their cards to like, oh, I'm gonna make this check 4 harder with my 4 of clubs or whatever, and the other one puts down a 5 of hearts or whatever to make it 5 easier. And it's like, oh, do we think that the base difficulty for this, defined by the arbiter, is going to be high or low? Like, can we make this easier or lower? Do we want to waste our cards on possibly an easy or harder check?
Yeah, that sounds fun. I wonder, like, whether that may be like too little to do for
No, and
the
then
two
I
dueling
think
fates.
the dueling fates also voice all the characters other than the hero.
Yeah, I do think the big immediate difficulty I do think with a free GM split up, which I think is interesting, but it is the challenge of it, is like, how do you split up the roles 3 ways where you've not where you're not making one person do too little? Like, I think it's a manageable challenge, but I'm just like, yeah, that's like splitting stuff into 2 feels very simple. Into 3 feels harder. Not impossible, but harder. I did have one idea while you're talking about cards, where I almost like the idea of like, what if all 3 GMs have entirely different mechanics? So the Arbiter, who is the challenge setter, the sort of narrative thing, yeah, like basically has the power to almost like be drawing a map, and like setting obstacles and stuff. And then like one GM who's maybe the evil GM is like has their own essential mini game where they are doing poker challenges that each have their own sort of effects. They each turn get to like try and make a poker hand, and that's like, yes, you've got a pair, so that's gonna debuff the hero. Or saying it's like, oh, it's a full house. Like something very bad is going to happen to the hero immediately, like you've just like cancelled them out or something.
Yeah.
And then maybe the good GM has something entirely different, like maybe they have a tarot deck and are like divining, are able to like sort of like at each like do a reading step by step at each thing, and then that's able to like influence the narrative for the hero.
Yeah, that gives the hero like tools to defeat the challenge put forward by the other 2 GMs.
Yeah. But obviously, like, because it's just doing a reading as a thing, it's maybe like sometimes it's like, oh no, I have drawn you the tower. Oh no, my hero, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, so it's not
and
like
also, maybe
we don't have a list of 26. You get a sword if you get the Hierophant. No, it's like you have to actually do a reading.
Yeah, and that's like their GM role is very interpretive. The Arbiter GM is very like set in facts. They define things that are there. I don't necessarily even think they set difficulty level. I think it's like
I think the bad GM
like success is more defined by the,
and then,
or I was going to say like the difficulty is more defined by like the player's own success metrics. Like like their roles inherently. It's like, oh, the PBTA may be like 6, 7 to 9, 10 thing.
Yeah.
And I also maybe like the idea that like bad or very weak poker hands from the evil GM may be like, not they give bonuses to the or maybe it's a thing like if they any like wasted cards, like in terms of like, okay, your only scored cards are like this pair. Those free cards you had to waste, like they're somehow going to the hero.
Then they can use that to increase their rolls or whatever.
Yeah, or just shift a narrative or something.
Yeah.
I feel like from this point on, like, yeah, you'd write the 3 mini games. I'm almost imagining. Have you read Anyone Can Wear the Mask or Beyond the Rim?
Anyone Can Wear the Mask, I think I've read, yeah.
I really like Anyone Can Wear the Mask. Like, my own game, Fear the Taste of Blood, was like adapted from both of those, and I'm imagining it almost in similar mechanics to that, with like intersecting mini games in an almost like 4-way rather than 3-way dynamic. And then I think like the weird thing here is like you kind of just need to write what the actual narrative pitch of this game is. I think that would be now the next step, though, where we would take this from a game soup game to like one of us writes this, is you'd have to decide, so like what is this beyond just a hero on an adventure, which is quite
I think like
open.
First draft pitch, the gods of Greek myth have told the fates that so and so hero, say Hercules, whatever, no, Heracles, whatever, has is gonna do some mythic bullshit, but the gods don't want it to happen. But of course, one of the fates has a liking to them, but then one of them really hates them, and it's like, right, okay, we're gonna watch over this kid, but if we help or hinder them, that's up to fate, baby.
Yeah, this is the thing where I'm like, I feel the mechanical pitch we've got here is very interesting, and then I feel like the story pitch is quite just like plain, which I'm aware sometimes can be a strength, you know, so people aren't getting too lost, but also,
yeah,
that's why I'm like, oh yeah, it's a first draft pitch that I in my mind I'm like, yeah, I feel like there's something there. But 17 minutes now. Do we want to go to?
I'm happy with that one. Let's do one of yours. What are you happiest with?
Of
your three.
Tooth Fairy, Wounded Time Freak, or We Tell Fibs. I feel like We Tell Fibs would end up maybe not similar to like We Free Fates, but I think there's a similar kind of thrust there. So maybe let's go with one of Wounded Time Freak or Wasted Tooth Fairy. I feel there's maybe just more juice in the orange of Wounded Time Freak rather than Wasted Time Tooth Fairy. So let's go with Wounded Time Freak. So we had the idea of like time traveler's wife's husband, like someone who is slipping through time, not necessarily within their own control. Even like, you know, time traveler's wife, Quantum Leap.
Yeah.
Wounded obviously would maybe do something like they're dying, and there's like this is maybe just an immediate sort of hook. Like, yeah, you are someone who has been wounded and like has been like thrust around time.
Yeah, normally you can control your time powers, but because you've been hurt, it's going haywire.
Yeah, or maybe even like you've been like shot by a weapon that does weird time fuckery.
The time cops have finally got to you.
I was thinking about like Final Crisis, the Grant Morrison comic, but and like I think the thing is you're time traveling back. There's this beat of like if you can change enough things in a butterfly effect way, like can you prevent the thing that got you shot and like blow up the time weapon in the face of the thing. I think that's like the narrative hook of this game. I feel like it's maybe like a card, like drawing from a deck for random prompts things, like maybe a tarot deck or maybe a card deck, and that's like giving you different errors and stuff. Or
it's like you have one deck that influences how far forward and back you go, and then you have like a timeline on a board or a bit of paper or something to show all the things that you've changed.
Yeah,
and then the other thing is like you appear at a kid's birthday party or whatever. Like you just random events you appear at.
Yeah, I also actually now I'm just having an idea of like maybe to make the ability to follow the narrative not having to be so Pepe Sylvia-esque board.
Yeah.
I was now wondering like what if there's something of almost it's like as like time is slipping, like the central characters and stuff you're involved in keep almost getting like reincarnated in like an Elseworlds way of like you're suddenly embedded in these very far-flung eras rather than
Yeah, you're not going 20 off
necessarily.
for 20 years in the past and in the future. No, it's like you're in the year 5 trillion, but somehow you keep meeting the same family's descendants.
Yeah, or it's almost like the people you are against, the person who's trying to kill you also keeps trying to kill you in these like vignettes of this life. Like
Yeah.
I'm been now very much thinking of Final Crisis and like the resurrection of Batman arc, where it's like, oh, it gets into Caveman Batman and is having to fight this like Bat God, and that kills Caveman Batman, and then Wild West Batman, and then other things, and it's all like I'm thinking almost now Cloud Atlas in a weird way, where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, strange vignettes of someone who is the same person, maybe for only like a couple of weeks or days. Wounded Time Freak sounds kind of fun, honestly.
Yeah, this kind of goes.
This shit kind of rips. So I feel maybe some random deck for like shuffling errors, or maybe also big tables. I don't know. There need to be, I feel, some kind of big element, big way you can randomize where you're going.
Yeah.
Or is it more, or do you leave that more to a GM?
No, I think the GM can like define where you end up, but like I think it's definitely random. I think that like is part of the fun of it. Like even the GM doesn't know where you're gonna end up. So it's like you have to try and work out how to like stop this time cop or this god or whatever. But you end up in
Um,
like Renaissance Italy. It's like, what can I get here that's actually useful? Like
yeah. Why was I actually just gonna think there? Maybe some element of like a big random table of lots of places. And that was also just suddenly making me go like, oh, how defined are you doing each error? I feel now like I'm now going to some like big obvious questions here, which is like, how many players is this game?
one GM, one player, I think.
Because I do feel if you go more in the resurrection thing, that can open up extra player spots. Maybe if you make this a bit asymmetric, like they get locked to specific characters, and obviously in
Yeah,
bigger or
so it's
smaller
like
games, someone
yeah.
gets to be like, if it can just be a GM, a player, but also maybe someone then gets to separately play out the villain,
And
and
every
their
version of your best friend
incarnations
throughout
across.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, like an ally, something like that. So like only the wounded time freak is maybe consciously aware of like, okay, shit. I guess I'm in Robin Hood times, but Robin Hood is now played by my pal, and the sheriff is being advised by this evil wizard who definitely seems to sound a lot like the time
Yeah.
Baron or whatever. What I am strange, I'm thinking of Nemesis Retribution and how I wrote that with like those sort of like like quite sort of like deliberately like montage style, like scene cutting, building to a showdown, and then also like having a lot of play sets. So I'm almost wondering if there's an idea of like a big random table, which then gives you more, refers to a book with more pages of different things. I feel like we've now got what is a very good idea that would need, because it involves a deliberate amount of like trippy bullshit. It's hard to riff on without sounding high. But we're coming close to the end of the mark. I should say this episode I was going to, and then I forgot, begin with a thing where I pretended we were live on the con floor, and then I was like, psych, we're recording this earlier. I'm in bed again, not because I'm tired, though I am tired, but because there's stuff on my desk, because I'm packing for UK Games Expo, where we are at right this second.
Yeah, if you are in Birmingham, I guess, come see us. We are at stalls 3A. What are we?
813
815
and
and 3?
815.
Yeah.
I saw a thing on social media and a thing in a Discord about how you can figure out what the things mean. So it's like, obviously the 3A is what hall we're in. So like
Yeah.
there's hall 3 and hall 3A. I think they are just like an extension of the same
Yeah.
I don't know what the order is there. And then it's like the first number is what kind of row you're in. So we're in row 8 or column 8 or whatever. And then the last two numbers, or however many numbers there, it's usually going to be a single digit or 2 digits, is how many meters you are from like a certain wall. So we're 13 meters from that wall, and your stall right next to us is 15 meters from that wall. So that's why we're row 8, 13 meters from the wall.
Arcane nonsense.
Yeah, I also like the UKG map. If you know what hall you're in, like on the website, is fine. But I will say, if you want to find a map that gives you a sense of how the halls connect to each other, there's like a Stamp Quest map that
I think the Stamp Quest map's the best one.
And yeah, we are both on Stamp Quest. If you're here, have a stamp. Do you imagine, this is a genuine question, do you imagine anyone at UKG Games Expo is listening to this podcast right
now? Shout out to Ziggy, possibly?
No, I don't mean as in not listening to I'm just more mean if you're at the con on a Friday, do you think you are going to take time in the middle of the day when we release this?
Oh, well, maybe when you're driving there.
Yeah, if you're only a Saturday or Sunday goer, hi, come see us on your way. Otherwise, I feel like a lot of the listeners who were at the con have probably all said hi. Thanks, it was great to talk to you. I hope your journey back was okay. Oh my god, thank you for spending that much money. You're one of the nicest customers I met that weekend. And, as always, thank you for listening to Game Soup.